Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to talk about vampire counts. You see, I've been kind of working on my vampire count army on the tabletop. It's mostly just list writing and just seeing what I have, and I've been thinking about the vampire counts in Total War because of it. The vampire counts are quite a varied faction when it comes to lore, not so much tabletop, but in their lore they are extremely varied, and I mean very much so like the Warriors of Chaos, essentially. It's a massive shame that right now, how everything works with the vampire counts is mostly Von Karstein and, yeah, some necromancers, but even then, you know, Ghost is attached to the necromancers too. We have a decent amount of legendary lords of the vampire counts, that's certain, but it's really the same faction over and over again, so I'm hoping in the future we'll get a DLC in the style of Champions of Chaos, and we'll be able to see some new vampires. And in this video, I want to talk about certain vampire characters which kind of strike out the most to me. With all that being said, let's talk about them. I'm not going by importance, I'm just going about cool characters. So first up, we're going to talk about Gashnag. This is a Strigoi vampire, which might not sound the most interesting to people. I know that the Strigoi aren't really that popular. However, this is an interesting character, as he goes by the name of the Black Prince and rules a small kingdom within the lands of the Border Princes. Now, the reason why this character is so interesting in terms of Strigoi, or just in general terms of vampires, is because he's an all-around good guy. He doesn't want to go through the same mistakes that many other vampires have fallen to, especially even his own sire, so he's doing things a little bit differently. Rather than just absolute power, making himself feel like a god, making his subjects fear him, he's well liked. Mostly because he keeps the people of his kingdom, the people under his service, safe. Obviously, if you're some sort of criminal, you will be punished and possibly killed, but as long as you live by the laws that he set, yeah, he's going to keep you alive. He's going to make sure that you're taken care of, and he's going to make sure that you're not being threatened, either by rival kingdoms within the lands of the Border Princes, and even by the monsters that Gashnag also has under his control, such as direwolves, crypt ghouls, anything like that. They will not kill you if you serve him. The townsfolk actually quite enjoy working under him, and they look at him with respect. In some cases, they'll even start rumors saying that once he was a very handsome man, but has been cursed to be like this, and yet it didn't make him bitter or angry. He still serves the realm. Many people love him. I kind of like this character mostly because, yeah, you know, he's a good guy. It's very strange. Yes, you still do get some good guys within the vampire counts, but Gashnag himself is in a position of power and he doesn't exploit it as any others would. You know, Manfred would definitely take advantage of these people and use them as a blood farm. Well, pretty much every vampire would basically exploit their subjects. Gashnag is proof that, yes, some vampires can actually be good. Yeah, there could be some ulterior motives. At the end of the day, he's also keeping himself safe, so there's a little bit of selfishness there. But then again, he's a vampire and it's kind of in their nature. Now, I don't know if he could make it as a legendary lord for the vampire counts, as he would be in the Border Princes, and that area is already starting to feel a little congested. It's also very, very close to the vampires of Sylvania, but I don't know. If we had a choice, I mean, the others are kind of dead, you know, Vorag and Ushoran are dead at the moment, but they could be brought back. I don't know, maybe as an FLC character would be kind of cool, or if we ever got a Border Princes faction, maybe Gashnag could lead for something very different. Okay, we're going to talk about a really big favorite here, Zacharias the Ever-Living. So this is a very, very powerful spellcaster, but he's also quite good at melee, which might be surprising because he is part of the Necrarch bloodline, but he's actually just very, very strong. You see, Zacharias himself doesn't deal with the whole hunger. He does not hunger for blood, as he did manage to drain a dragon dry. That's the only thing to make vampires no longer just suffer the curse. Mind you, the way he actually managed to bleed a dragon dry was because, yeah, he cheated. Most vampires will have to go out and slay a dragon to be able to bleed them dry, which is usually the most usual of cases. Zacharias, yeah, he found a sleeping black dragon and managed to bleed it dry without it waking up. I don't know about you, but I'd call that cheating. However, that did empower him more, and he was no longer cursed with the ravenous hunger that most vampires have. To add insult to injury, Zacharias also decided to raise the dragon up because, well, it served a purpose once, it might serve a purpose again. This is a character that craves not only power but knowledge too, like the rest of his bloodline, and it would be a pretty interesting dynamic to see different types of vampires being implemented purely because of characters like this. It could be a dedicated research tree, which might take a while, but as you start getting more and more artifacts, it will go faster, and you'll get some strong buffs for your army. The idea is, you know, focus around knowledge. Now the big issue that I would see here is that this character is focused around the Empire. Yeah, so he's actually based in the Forest of Shadows, which is a bit close to Festus. Let's be honest, the Empire right now does not need another corruption faction there, because you already have the Beastmen, you already have Festus, you already have the vampire counts. Hell, you've got the Norskins that will start coming down for you straight away. It does become a bit of an issue, and it would kind of cause a lot of problems. Zacharias himself could literally be anywhere. This is the great thing about these types of characters. Not so much like, say, for example, Neferata, who we'll speak about later in this video, but Zacharias, he's constantly moving, because he does have the feeling of being hunted down, as, well, yeah, it's something that a lot of vampires will try to take him out, mostly because he is a strong contender against them, and who's to say that, well, you know, he'll just show up somewhere else. It's kind of like with Champions of Chaos, where we have Village starting near Cafe. It wouldn't really make too much sense, because he's normally in Norskern lore, but, you know, moving characters around to a place just to kind of spread things out just makes a lot of sense. Now, since we've already mentioned her, we might as well talk about her. This is Neferata, known as the Beautiful Death. Well, she's got a lot of titles, but she is essentially first of the vampires, a rather powerful character who ruled over an area known as Lamia. She is the founder and the leader of the Lamian bloodline, a faction of vampires which is mostly known to be female. There are still males though, it's something which a lot of people seem to not realize, but yeah, male Lamians have been mentioned in the lore, it's just more common to see women. Now, what makes Neferata so interesting? Well, not only the fact that she is an ancient warrior, in her life she actually defied a lot of ancient customs. The fact is that she wanted to join the mortuary cult, but she was laughed about it. She could not because women could never join the mortuary cult, and in fact, apparently to the ancient Hekarans, could not even learn magic. They were proven wrong, as obviously women can wield magic, but Neferata wields it to a very strong degree, but magic is not her biggest strength, it only helps her more than anything. You see, she is very influential. She knows how to work the psyche of men. She knows how to influence mortals. This means that Lamia has been very active. While destroyed and in need of repair, Neferata actually moved up to the Silver Pinnacle, way far up to the World's Edge Mountains. But while she works on getting Lamia up and running again, she uses her network of spies to keep tabs on pretty much every race in the Warhammer world. She has spies everywhere, and she's been able to even cause factions to fight among each other, mainly because it could serve a purpose, but sometimes just for the hell of it. But we already know her pretty much start location, which would be the Silver Pinnacle, and, well, the Lamian Sisterhood is already there. I believe she's been kind of hinted a few times by Creative Assembly over the years, and she's way too big of a character not to have in, because it's Neferata. I'd love to see her have some sort of influence mechanic, because that would just be kind of cool, as, yeah, not like the High Elves, but more like South and Free Kingdoms. I mentioned this a lot, because it would just be nice to have something really out there, especially for a character which is so important. She deserves her own unique thing. While the Champions of Chaos did technically get some unique factions, even though it was taken from the Monogods, the vampires won't have that pleasure, so I would hope that if we do get a Vampire Count Champions of Chaos style DLC, that each of the legendary lords that get implemented will have something, you know, unique, considering that there's not really a lot of units missing at this point, so it's going to have to focus on mechanics more than anything else. Next, we're going to talk about Malabour, because this is a character that I really like. So, He is the bastard son of King Leon Leonka, which, not so chivalrous, are you? But that's not obviously what makes him interesting. It's just a nice little lore tidbit. The thing is that Malabour is a vampire, and during the end times, though he was mentioned in earlier editions, he does take over the Dukedom of Mousillon. Yeah, it's not the Red Duke. The Red Duke actually rules over Aquitaine, I believe, but you know how these things are. Anyways, so Malabour takes over, and he basically turns it into an evil dukedom, well, more so than it already was. But he's turned Mousillon into a bit of a dark Bretonnia, even going back to like earlier edition type of Bretonnia, where black powder weapons are used, mercenaries are hired. Hell, there's loads of vampires running rampant and ghouls and stuff, but that was always the case with Mousillon because it's just a really cursed area. He's cool because he embodies something that the nobles of Bretonnia go against, and it could be a very interesting faction to see implemented into Total War Warhammer. Yes, we already have the Red Duke, and I'll make quick mention of him that he should still stay where he is, or just, you know, you never know. But it could be interesting to see a evil Bretonnia, where it's a nice healthy mix of vampire units, you know, the basic stuff like skeletal warriors, ghouls, all the basic stuff there, and then mixing it up with some archers of some, you know, pox-infested archers, some evil Grail Knights, some evil Knights of the Realm. It would take the same assets, all it requires is essentially reskinning and some new voice lines, very similar again to that of Champions of Chaos. Mixing up both mechanics and just having something kind of unique. We've already had something kind of similar when it comes to, you know, mods and stuff in Warhammer 2, but it would be cool if we saw this done officially. Seeing it done that way could be very good for, say, for example, Warhammer the Old World when making a Mousillon faction. Plus, you know, if you've played the mod, mixing both Bretonians and vampire counts can lead to some pretty interesting army compositions. And that's what I think we all as players want. We want new playstyles, not just a new character. This is something, again, that Champions of Chaos did really well, and I'm going to be praising this DLC a lot over the next few years. Hopefully we get more of that style, because we had 4 different characters, and that brought in 4 different playstyles. Yes, ultimately they kinda work the same way in a skeletal basis, but once you add in the other mechanics, the other demons, the other units, which might all be very similar but work differently in certain cases, you get new playstyles, and this is what I want from the vampires really, really badly. And lastly, we're going to talk about Ushoran, the first Strigoi. Yes, there's 2 Strigoi in this, but he's a character that I really like, and you might like him too. So he's dead in the lore, at least presumed dead, but he is the first ever Strigoi, and he is Neferata's brother. He was there when the vampires were formed, and he was always treated badly, not even in Unlife, but also during Life 2. She treated him like a second-grade citizen, and he kind of put up with it. Yeah, I think that's the best way of saying it. Don't take that the wrong thing, it's not like he was actually just, like, simping for her or anything. It's more the fact that he was learning, watching. The other vampires clearly didn't respect him, but he was learning how everything was going, how to master his powers, especially as a Strigoi vampire, which are obviously on the more bestial side. But when it came to the time that the vampires eventually betrayed Nagash when they were enslaved to him, Ushoran went off and kind of did his own thing. A cult was formed under his name, essentially, in the lands of the Strigos, and yeah, he was worshipped like a god. He had learned from the mistakes of Neferata and all the other vampires. And really, the Strigoi Empire was large for a while. Morkane was a grand capital. Mind you, Morkane had already been previously corrupted, but that's neither here or there. Very similar to that of Gashnag, the vampires only feed on criminals and enemy captives. It's not a bad place to live. And the only reason that the Strigos Empire failed is because the vampires basically betrayed each other. Well, there's a few other things, but that's like the main catalyst. The Strigoni, the humans that still live in that area, miss him thousands of years later. Well, they miss the concept of Morkane. They miss the Empire more itself, because it's like, they were very, very powerful. Now they're mostly just nomadic tribes. So they kind of want to return to the good old days, essentially. It'd be a kind of fun dynamic if, say, for example, Neferata did get added in, which we're expecting, and then Ushoran came with her, and there was a bit of a rivalry, that would be kind of cool, because, you know, sibling rivalry is an overused trope, but it would work very well for the case of these two, especially since we already have Khalida, so it wouldn't be Khalida versus Neferata, which is a massive shame. But I'm a big fan of the Strigoi, so I would like a Strigoi Legendary Lord because it just makes sense for me, and I know there's people who are fans of others, but hey, it's my video, so I'm going to talk about two Strigoi. Well, Gashnag would fit on the Dogs of War, if anything, but you know what I mean. But yeah, there's a lot of characters that are missing. There's a lot. If I wanted to talk about every single missing vampire, we'd be here for absolute days. Obviously Genevieve, Ulrika, those are big ones. Conrad von Karstein is a character that I very much like, and I still feel like he was thrown away because of, you know, Helmengorst. But if they want to do loads of vampire content, there's definitely enough here. I think that we could get as many vampire characters as there are right now for, say, Chaos in general, if not more, really, because the vampires have all these different subcultures, which would be easier to kind of write for. But then again, it all depends on the powers from Games Workshop allowing CA to do this or not. All we can really do is suggest stuff and hope that they pick up on those suggestions. But with all that being said, what are some of your favorite vampire characters in the Warhammer Fantasy Universe? Let me know your thoughts and your favorites in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. This video might be coming out late, by the way. I'm running around like a headless chicken because preparing for Christmas. Yeah.